Welcome to the Psychology Undergrad.
The only study session where we caffeinate first, panic second, and ask questions later.
Absolutely. Though, I have to say, looking at the empty energy drink cans on this table, we might need to switch to an IV drip of espresso pretty soon.
I'm feeling that. I really am.
Okay, look, we have to get serious. The big exam on cross-cultural human development is, it's literally looming over us like this dark, thunderous cloud.
It really is.
I have my notes, I have the textbook, which cost me a fortune, by the way. I have this whole stack of source material, and honestly, my brain is slightly melting.
It's going to be fine. Just breathe. We just need to go through it, systematically. Review the material.
Okay.
The professor was super clear that this section, what was it, Chapter 4, Child Rearing in Families and Communities, is going to be a huge chunk of the final grade.
A huge chunk.
So if we nail this, we pass the class. Simple as that.
Right. And the mission for this specific deep dive, our study session here, is basically to review all the notes on how culture shapes the way we grow up. And I have to say, going through this reading last night, it challenges pretty much everything I thought was normal about childhood.
Oh, 100%.
Like everything I took for granted as just how humans are turns out to be just how weird Americans are.
That is essentially the thesis of the entire course, isn't it? If you write one thing on your hand to look at during the test, it should be that.
What, Americans are weird?
No, well, yes, but more academically, biology is not destiny.
Biology is not destiny. Got it. I'm tattooing that on my brain.
Because we tend to think that the way we were raised, the nuclear family, mom and dad, school starts at age 5, sleep training.
Cribs in separate rooms.
Exactly, all that stuff. We think that's the biological standard for the human species. But the source material just demolishes that idea. It argues that all these cultural practices are just adaptations.
Not universal truth.
Not at all. They're strategies. They're developed to deal with really specific circumstances, like mortality rates, the economy, how the community is structured.
Which is fascinating, but also kind of terrifying when you realize how arbitrary some of our rules are. It's like finding out the rules in Monopoly aren't actually the laws of physics.
That's a great way to put it.
But before we crack open the textbook and start unpacking the grim reality of 17th century child mortality, because, wow, that gets dark, and we need to be mentally prepared for that.
It gets really dark really fast.
We need to talk about the one thing that is actually going to help us pass this test.
More coffee.
No. Sleep.
Naturally. The elusive 8 hours. A myth for most undergrads.
I'm serious. You cannot retain Levine's hierarchy of parental goals if you are sleeping on those scratchy, cheap polyester dorm sheets that feel like actual sandpaper.
Ugh, I know exactly the ones you mean. They're awful.
So we need to talk about the most important part of being a successful student, which is quality rest. And that brings us to our sponsor, Cozy Earth.
This is actually a valid point, scientifically. Memory consolidation happens during REM sleep. So if you're tossing and turning because you're overheating or because your sheets are pilling and just feel terrible...
You're not learning.
You're not. You're just wasting time lying down, getting frustrated.
Exactly. So Cozy Earth has these bamboo sheet sets that are a total game changer. They are temperature regulating, which is huge because, let's be real, dorms and student apartments are always either a sauna or an icebox.
There's no middle ground. Ever.
Never. And they are the softest sheets I've ever felt. It is like sleeping on a cloud. It's ridiculous.
They are premium. And we know, look, we're undergrads. We are literally eating instant noodles for dinner. Budgets are tight. Sheets can be really expensive.
Which is why this is such a hookup. You can get 21% off F with the promo code PSYC101. That's PSYC101 at CozyEarth.com. Discount PSYC101.
And 21% off is, that's not nothing. That's a massive discount.
It really is. It makes high-end bedding actually accessible for a student budget. That's a significant saving.
Yeah, that's a huge help.
So go to CozyEarth.com, discount PSYC101, use code PSYC101, get the sleep you need so you don't hallucinate during the exam, and write an essay about how Cotton Mather invented the iPhone.
Okay, that's fair. Plug over. Let's dive into the trauma.
Let's do it.
So let's start with the framework. If there is one thing that is definitely going to be on the test like 100% guarantee, it is Robert Levine's 3-level hierarchy of parental goals.
Yes. Levine's hierarchy. This is the cornerstone.
Right.
So let's unpack this. It's basically Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but for parenting, right? That's how I'm remembering it.
That's a perfect way to remember it. Levine argues that parents everywhere, in every culture, every time period, they have the same general goals. But And this is the key. They
Yeah.
prioritize them differently.
Based on the risks in their environment.
Exactly. It's a flowchart of necessity.
Okay, so walk me through the levels. Level 1 is physical survival.
Correct. Level 1. In communities where infant mortality is high, where disease or war or famine is just rampant, the parents' number one, and sometimes only, focus is keeping the kid breathing.
It's the keep the baby alive phase. You're not worried about whether they're expressing their creativity
Or learning the violin.
or if they feel heard.
Yeah.
You worry about if they're going to wake up tomorrow morning. That's it.
Exactly. The input is high risk, so the output is protective parenting. In this stage, parenting looks very controlling to us. It looks restrictive, but that's because danger is everywhere.
Okay, so that's level 1. What happens if they survive?
Then, if and only if survival is relatively secure, you move to level 2, economic independence.
This is the get a job phase.
Essentially, it's about preparing the child to maintain themselves economically when they grow up. So if they survive childhood, they need to be able to feed themselves and, support the family.
Right. So this is where you'd see a focus on things like obedience, hard work, learning a trade, fitting into the community hierarchy.
Precisely. And then only when survival and economic stability are taken care of do you get to level 3.
And level 3 is the luxury suite, the penthouse.
Level 3 is cultural values. This is where parents start to focus on things like prestige or religious piety, intellectual achievement, self-realization.
Find it yourself.
That's the one. This is where we live most of the time in the modern West. We worry about our kids' self-esteem, if they're fulfilled, if they are self-actualizing.
We worry about if they made the travel soccer team.
Yes. But Levine is saying that's a privilege. You only get to worry about self-actualization if you aren't worried about dysentery or starvation.
That's such a powerful point. We are sitting at the top of the pyramid, looking down and judging people at the bottom for not parenting like us.
Exactly. And the source material gives us some incredibly stark historical context for this. We often forget that the United States, not that long ago, was stuck firmly in level 1.
Oh man, the Cotton Mather section. This was heartbreaking. Actually, I had to put the notes down for a second.
It's rough.
So Cotton Mather, famous New England preacher, colonial period. We think of him as this, stiff historical figure, the guy involved in the Salem witch trials.
Right. That's all I knew about him.
But the reading focuses on him as a father, and he fathered 15 children.
15. That number alone tells you something about the reproductive strategy of the time. You have many children because, statistically, many of them just won't make it.
And only 2 survived him. 2 out of 15?
Can you even imagine that? It creates a completely different psychological landscape for being a parent.
Completely. The source quotes his diary from November 1713. It's absolutely devastating. In the span of 2 weeks, during a measles epidemic in Boston, he loses his wife and 3 of his children.
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Eleazar, Martha, and Jerusha.
Reading that diary entry, he just writes it so bluntly. Little Eleazar died. Little Martha died. Just back to back.
And then Jerusha, who's only 2 years old, he writes about her asking him to pray with her right before she died. And his reaction is what struck me. He says he gave her up into the Lord.
And that's the critical link to religion and morality in the text. In a level 1 environment where death is constant and unpredictable, religion isn't just a belief system.
It's a survival mechanism.
It's a survival mechanism for the parent's sanity. You have to frame it as God's will. You have to believe there is a higher purpose, because the alternative is just unbearable despair. You would just break.
It changes how you love, doesn't it? Or at least how you express it.
Yeah.
If you know there's a 50-50 chance your child dies before age 5, do you let yourself get as attached as a modern parent does?
That is the really uncomfortable question the reading poses. And there was that detail about postmortem photography to illustrate how they processed grief, which is so alien to us.
Yes. This often creeps modern students out. In the textbook, they mention how in the 19th and early 20th centuries, it was common to take a family photo with the deceased child.
Right, like propped up in a chair, looking as if they were asleep, surrounded by the living family.
To us, that seems so morbid, almost like a horror movie trope. But you have to shift your perspective.
In that context, it was a way to honor them. Photography was expensive and rare. It might be the only picture ever taken of that child. It was a refusal to let them just disappear from the family record. It was an act of love.
Whereas nowadays, we hide grief, we sanitize death. If a child dies today, it's a catastrophic anomaly. We clear the room. But back then, death was a member of the household. It sat at the dinner table.
Which is a perfect transition to the demographic shifts. Because when the death rate drops, everything about family changes.
Right, and we saw this massive swing in the China case study. This is a perfect example of how government policy can totally re-engineer the psychology of the family.
Okay, so give us the timeline on China. Let's review that.
All right, so before 1949, you had high death rates, high birth rates, pretty typical agrarian model. You needed lots of kids to work the fields and to ensure at least someone survived to take care of you in your old age.
Levine's level 1 and 2, basically.
Exactly. Then sanitation improves, healthcare gets better, the population explodes. So in the late 70s, the government steps in and implements the one-child policy.
And suddenly the whole family structure just inverts. Instead of a pyramid with lots of kids at the bottom supporting the parents and grandparents, it becomes an upside-down triangle.
You get the 4-2-1 phenomenon.
Exactly. 4 grandparents, 2 parents, all obsessing over one single child.
And the source talks about the immense anxiety that comes with that. It creates this pressure cooker. If you have 6 kids, you can't spoil them all. You're just trying to feed them. But if you have one...
And that one child represents the entire future of the lineage, the entire retirement plan for 6 adults. The pressure is just immense.
Which leads to the Little Emperor syndrome. The text mentions all these concerns in China about spoiling and the lack of peer skills.
Which makes sense. If you don't have siblings, you don't learn how to share or fight or negotiate in the living room. You don't learn that you aren't the center of the entire universe.
And we see a similar, though maybe less draconian shift in Mexico. The government went from actively encouraging large families, the average was 7 kids in 1965,
7, I know.
to promoting smaller families. And by the 90s, the average was down to 2.5.
There was that quote from the Mexican mother who was one of 14 children, 14, and she decided to have only 2.
And she said small families live better.
Which was literally the government jingle.
But the analysis here is key for the exam. Policies change family structure, and family structure changes psychology. It isn't just parenting style as some personal choice you make in a vacuum. It's an adaptation to the container the government and the economy build for you.
So survival dictates the goal. That makes sense. But let's go deeper. Let's talk about the maternal instinct. Because if there is one thing that pop culture, and frankly, a lot of Western psychology tells us, is sacred and universal.
It's the bond. The immediate, unbreakable bond between a mother and her baby.
Right. And this next part of the reading just blows that idea apart.
Segment 2. This is where we really have to challenge the textbook definitions. The source material takes us to a shantytown in Brazil, studied by the anthropologist Nancy Shipper Hughes. And this was the hardest part of the reading for me. It really tests your ability to not judge.
It is deeply, deeply challenging to Western morality. You have a setting with massive infant mortality. It's off the charts due to poverty, dirty water, and a total lack of medical care.
A pure level 1 environment.
The purest. And mothers there have developed the strategy she calls selective neglect.
Selective neglect. Even just the term sounds so harsh, it sounds like a crime.
And to a Western observer, it looks like a crime. But you have to look at it through the lens of survival. These mothers do not attach to every baby immediately. They wait. They observe.
And if a baby looks weak or too passive or just doesn't show what they call a knack for life,
they back off. They emotionally withdraw.
They literally stop caring for it. They let it die. They stop feeding it the good food. They stop holding it. They turn their attention to the children who seem stronger.
They believe that if a child is doomed, if they are born already starving or wasted, then struggling against death is wrong. It's a waste of precious resources that could save the other children who are strong.
They interpret the baby's weakness as a sign that it wants to die.
I know. That's the part that's so hard to hear. There was that quote where the woman actually laughed at the researcher for trying to save a dying baby. They told her it's wrong to fight death.
That just sent shivers down my spine. It completely flips our entire morality upside down. To us, fighting for a life, any life, is the highest good. To them, accepting death is the necessary wisdom.
And this is the crucial distinction the professor will want us to make. Mortal neglect versus maternal love. In their eyes, letting a doomed child go is a form of mercy.
It's not cruelty. It's a survival strategy for the family unit.
Exactly. But here is the twist, and this is so important. If a child survives that test, if they make it past infancy and show they are a fighter, those mothers love them fiercely.
So it's not that they can't love, it's that they can't afford to love a child who isn't going to make it. It's an emotional defense mechanism.
It protects the mother from being shattered by grief over and over and over again. If you cried for every baby that died in that environment, you wouldn't have the strength to feed the ones who are still living.
So Sheeper Hughes is basically challenging the idea that maternal bonding is innate and automatic.
She argues it is conditional. It depends on the circumstances. If the circumstances are impossible, the bond is delayed.
Which totally breaks the standard attachment theory we learned in Psych 101, with Mary Ainsworth and the strange situation test.
Right, the classic lab test. We should definitely recap it for the exam because a procedural question like this is coming.
Okay, so the procedure is mother and baby enter a room with toys. A stranger comes in. Mother leaves the room. That's the separation.
Then the mother comes back. That's the reunion. The researchers are watching how the baby reacts, especially at that moment of reunion.
And in the U.S., we have this gold standard of the secure attachment. The baby is sad when mom leaves, maybe cries a bit, but is happy and easily soothed when she comes back. They use her as a secure base to explore.
That's the good outcome. That's what every parenting book tells you to aim for. But when you take that test around the world,
The results go completely haywire.
they do. Let's look at the German example from the text. German babies were often classified as avoidant.
Avoidant, which sounds bad. It sounds like a problem.
In the U.S. coding key, it is bad. It means the baby just ignores the mother. When the mom came back into the room, the German babies often didn't even look up. They just kept playing.
So in the U.S., that would imply the mom is cold or the baby is detached and there's a problem with the relationship.
Exactly. But in the German cultural context, that behavior isn't avoidant, it's independent. German culture values early self-reliance. They actively train their kids not to be clingy.
So the baby's doing exactly what it was taught to do.
Precisely. The test isn't measuring pathology, it's measuring a cultural value. The test is culturally biased.
And then Japan was the complete opposite. The babies were often classified as resistant or ambivalent.
Because they freaked out. I mean, they were inconsolable even when mom returned. They were clinging but also crying and angry at her for leaving.
So why? What's the cultural explanation for that?
Because in Japan, at least traditionally, a mother rarely, if ever, leaves an infant alone or with a stranger. They co-sleep, they carry them constantly, so the separation in the test is way more traumatic for a Japanese baby than a U.S. baby.
So the test isn't measuring their attachment style. It's measuring how terrified the kid is, because this situation is completely alien to them.
And then there was the Dogon in West Africa.
Right. No avoidance found at all. Zero. Because mothers nurse immediately upon any sign of distress. The baby is strapped to the mom constantly. The idea of avoiding the mother is literally non-existent.
So the big takeaway for the exam is, a secure baby looks different in Hamburg, Tokyo, and New York. The test itself is biased toward U.S. middle-class values of what we think is good parenting, which is this idea of autonomy within safety.
It assumes the U.S. model is the universal baseline, which it's not.
Yeah.
Which leads us perfectly into segment 3, the nuclear family structure itself.
Or as I like to call it for my notes, the lonely box.
It is a bit of a box, isn't it?
Yeah.
The source material contrasts the U.S. model, mom, dad, kids, separate house, white picket fence, locked doors, with basically the rest of the world and the rest of history.
We are the outliers. We think we're normal, but globally and historically, we are the weird ones. The whole historical shift in the U.S. emphasized individualism. Captain of his soul. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
And the result of that is isolation.
Total isolation. There's that fantastic quote from Barbara Kingsolver in the readings. She lived in Spain for a while. She talks about how in Spain, strangers would touch her kid, feed her kid, smile at her kid.
She said children were meringues and eclairs.
Yeah.
Like everyone wanted a piece.
That is such a great image. Everyone wants a bite of the sweetness. They see a child as a joy for the whole community.
And then she compares it to the U.S., and she says in the U.S., children are treated like toxic waste.
Ouch. Toxic waste. Unnecessary evil, maybe? But keep it away from me.
She mentions being in a restaurant in the U.S. and someone actually saying, "We come here to get away from kids."
And you hear that all the time. It highlights a profound difference. In the U.S., the assumption is every family for itself. If your kid is crying, that is your problem. You need to solve it. Keep it quiet.
But in Spain, or in so many other cultures, a child is a community asset. If a kid is crying, a stranger might wave at them or make a funny face to help out. It's a shared responsibility.
Which brings us to the role of fathers and other caregivers. Because if you're in an isolated nuclear family and mom is busy, who's watching the baby?
Usually no one. Or a paid stranger, like a babysitter.
Yeah.
But look at the Ica foragers in Central Africa.
The best dads in the world. I starred this in my notes.
Statistically, yeah. Ake fathers hold their infants about 20% of the time.
Which sounds like Well, 20% doesn't sound like that much until you see the comparison number.
Right. In most other farming or foraging societies, fathers hold infants less than 4% of the time. The Akaka are 5 times more involved. They're constantly touching, holding, soothing. They are active participants, not just helping out.
And then you have the Ife in the Congo. They have multiple mothers.
Shared nursing.
Yeah.
The baby's just passed around. It belongs to the kin group, not just the biological parents.
Right. A baby might be breastfed by several different women in a single day, whichever mom is closest and available.
I love the mnemonic we came up with for this, the bench warmer theory.
Okay, go on. Explain it for the listeners. This is a good one.
So in the U.S. nuclear family, think of child rearing like a sport. Mom is usually the starting player. If mom has to step out, to shower, to cook, to just breathe for 5 seconds, there is no one on the bench.
The bench is empty.
The bench is empty. Maybe dad is there, maybe not, maybe he's at work. But often, the mother is the sole goalie, defense, and offense, all at once.
Which is how you get burnout. It's exhausting to play every position at once, 247.
Exactly. But in these other cultures, the Ife, the Aka, that Spanish village, there is a whole roster. Grandmas, aunts, cousins, neighbors. If mom steps out, 5 other people are ready to jump in.
I got this. Put me in, coach.
It's a team sport. That's a very accurate analogy, and it leads to a much less stressful environment for the mother. She isn't the sole source of survival for the infant. The burden is shared.
Which is just so much healthier.
But speaking of the roster, let's talk about the MVPs of the bench that we totally ignore in the U.S.
Siblings.
Segment 4, the sibling solution. This is a huge blind spot in Western psychology. We just don't even think about it.
In so many cultures, like in Kenya or Polynesia, who is taking care of the toddler, it's not mom. Mom's busy working.
It's the 7-year-old sister.
The nurse child. That's the term for it. We see this data point. In many cultures, the primary caregiver for a toddler is a sibling aged 5 to 10.
Can you even imagine that? In the U.S., if you left a 2-year-old in the care of a 6-year-old, CPS would be at your door in 5 minutes. We view that as negligence.
We think a 6-year-old is a baby themselves. They can't possibly be responsible for another life.
But in the context of a village or a tribe, it works beautifully. The 6-year-old isn't alone in a locked house with the baby. They are within shouting distance of dozens of adults. But they are the ones doing the carrying, the soothing, the entertaining.
And the benefits seem massive. For the toddler, they are part of the gang. They get constant stimulation. They aren't stuck in a playpen looking at a plastic mobile.
And for the older kid, the nurse child, they learn real responsibility. They learn nurturance. And interestingly, the text points out this applies to boys too.
Right. In cultures where boys are nursed children, they grow up to be more nurturing, more involved fathers. It teaches them skills they don't learn in our culture.
So why don't we do this? What happened? Why is the idea of a 7-year-old watching a baby so completely alien to us?
The source material blames one specific modern invention, age-graded schooling.
The bureaucracy. It always comes back to bureaucracy.
It's a logistical solution that became a social prison. When we invented modern compulsory schools, we decided the most efficient way to teach was to sort humans by their manufacture date.
Put all the 8-year-olds in one room, all the 9-year-olds in another. It's like an assembly line.
And the result is that 8-year-olds only ever interact with other 8-year-olds. They lose the chance to mentor a 3-year-old. They lose the chance to be mentored by a 12-year-old.
We created a horizontal world, peer groups, and we lost the vertical world of mixed ages.
It's the Lord of the Flies effect. You put a bunch of kids the same age in a room and it becomes this intense hierarchy of coolness and bullying. But if you mix the ages, the dynamic changes.
The older ones naturally take care of the younger ones. A 10-year-old won't bully a 3-year-old, they'll protect them. But a 10-year-old will absolutely destroy another 10-year-old socially to climb the ladder.
Exactly. We deprive children of a natural, crucial role, the mentor. And we replace that traditional wisdom with the expert.
Segment 5, the rise of the expert. This connects so perfectly.
It connects back to the Industrial Revolution and the breakdown of the extended family. When you move to the city for a factory job, away from grandma and auntie, you don't have anyone to ask.
Is this rash normal? Or why is the baby crying?
So you ask a doctor. You ask science.
And science. Well, science in 1949 was a little bit cold. We have this source document they included. Instructions to Mothers from a Kansas City hospital in 1949.
This document is absolute gold for the exam. It perfectly illustrates the shift from grandma's wisdom to technical management. It reads like an instruction manual for a refrigerator, not a human being.
Some of these rules are just wild. Rule 10, Handle infant as little as possible.
Do not pick baby up every time it cries. Infant is quickly spoiled by handling. Can you imagine?
That's the exact opposite of everything we're taught today about attachment and soothing. And my favorite, don't listen to careless advice of friends and relatives. Do as the physician advises.
It's the arrogance of modernity. It's a direct attack on traditional knowledge. The assumption was that mothers and grandmothers were ignorant, dirty, and sentimental. Science was clean, objective, and detached.
It turned parenting into a medical procedure. It's technical. It's about schedules and ounces of formula and sterilization. It's not about love or intuition.
It completely stripped the intuition out of it. And we are still reeling from that. We still look for the book or the expert that will tell us how to parent rather than looking at the actual child in front of us.
We Google, "Why is my baby crying?" instead of just holding the baby.
Or looking to our community. Okay, so moving to segment 6. This is about work. The idea of pitching in versus pretending.
This is a favorite topic of mine. The total segregation of children from the adult world of work.
In the U.S. middle class, kids are banned from the workplace. If I brought a 5-year-old to an office or a factory, it would be a huge liability issue. It's considered dangerous.
Don't touch that. You'll get sued.
So we create these baby-proofed zones, daycares, schools, playrooms. We build fences around them and fill them with plastic toys.
But in Mayan communities or Okai communities or even historical U.S. farm families, the kids are in the workspace. They are part of it.
Not just in it, they are contributing. The concept here is pitching in.
The example of the Mayan girl. She's 3 years old.
3.
And she's washing clothes or running errands.
3. I know 3-year-olds who can barely operate a juice box. But here, she is observing her mother, and because she wants to belong and be like the big people, she mimics the work, and eventually she's actually being helpful.
There's another example in the reading of a 12-year-old girl in a family restaurant, and it says she learned knife skills not by taking a cooking class for kids, but by watching her dad bone veal for years.
She learned by osmosis, by observation and gradual participation. In the U.S., we do the complete opposite. We buy kids a toy kitchen.
Yes, with plastic food.
Yeah.
And plastic knives that don't cut anything.
We create a mock environment. We prepare them for work by giving them fake work. We segregate them in a safe bubble where they can't do anything real. In other cultures, they just let them work. They trust the child to handle the real knife under supervision.
Now, we have to be really careful here. The professor will want us to make this distinction. We are not advocating for child labor in the exploitative sense.
No, absolutely not. The source makes a very sharp distinction between family work and industrial child labor.
Right. We are not talking about the breaker boys.
The breaker boys in the coal mines. These 8-year-olds working 16-hour shifts, breathing coal dust, getting their fingers crushed in the machinery. That is exploitation. That is isolating the child from the family to serve a machine for a wage.
Versus the image of the Dutch family in the field, or the Mayan family weaving together. In those cases, the child is working with the parent. It builds a relationship. It builds identity.
They get to feel, I am a helper. I am capable. I am a valuable member of this family.
It integrates the child into the social fabric. Working in a factory destroys health and alienates the child. Working on the family farm, while still incredibly hard, builds competence and a sense of belonging.
The U.S. conundrum, as the text calls it, is that we want our kids to be competent and responsible, but we don't let them do anything real. We put them in school for 18 years and then say, okay, now go be a professional.
And they're like, I've never done anything but fill out worksheets and play with plastic food.
We sever the link between learning and doing. It's like trying to learn to swim by reading a book about water. You have to get in the pool eventually.
Which brings us to the final segment of the notes, the geometry of socializing.
The geometry. This sounds like math, but it's actually about how we sit and look at each other. It's fascinating.
It is abstract, but it's so crucial for understanding different communication styles.
It's the dyad versus the group.
In the West, our basic unit of interaction is the dyad. 2 people.
Face-to-face, eye contact. Think about a date or a job interview or a therapy session. It's always one-on-one.
Or think about how we talk to babies. We get right in their face. Who's a good baby? Look at me. Look at mommy. We treat them like a conversational partner. We demand that eye contact.
And in schools, this becomes what the reading calls the switchboard model.
Okay, explain that one again.
Think of a traditional classroom. The teacher is the central operator. Student A raises their hand and talks to the teacher. Then the teacher calls on student B, who talks to the teacher.
It's a series of 2-way connections, all routed through the teacher.
It's rarely a web where everyone is talking to everyone else at the same time. It's orderly, it's dyadic.
Okay, so compare that to the Mayan model.
The group, the multi-party interaction. In many indigenous communities, the normal form of interaction is a circle. Everyone is monitoring everyone else simultaneously. It's not a spotlight switching from person to person. It's a floodlight.
There was that amazing observation of the Mayan toddler, Maria.
Yes. She's just sitting there, and she is tracking her mother, her cousin, a toy she wants, and an adult conversation all at the same time. She doesn't have to switch channels. Her attention is omnidirectional.
And the key difference is how they handle attention seeking. In the U.S., if a toddler wants an adult's attention, what do?
They interrupt. Mom, 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 look at me, mommy.
Because in a dyadic culture, if you aren't looking directly at me and talking to me, I don't exist in the conversation. I need to break your connection with that other person to establish a connection with me. I have to steal the spotlight.
Exactly. But in the Mayan example, the mother could hand a cookie to the toddler while maintaining her conversation with another adult without even breaking eye contact.
The fluid integration of the child into the group means the child doesn't need to fight for a turn.
They are already part of the group, not an outsider trying to break in.
It makes our kids seem kind of rude, or at least incredibly needy for attention.
Not needy, just trained. We've trained them to believe that exclusive, face-to-face, one-on-one attention is the only kind of love and connection that counts.
Wow. Okay. That is a lot. We have covered survival, maternal instinct, the village, siblings, experts, work, and the geometry of our social lives.
We have essentially summarized the entire human experience of growing up in about an hour. No big deal.
So for the final exam review, let's recap the big takeaways. Bullet points for the cheat sheet.
Okay, let's do it. Point 1, survival drives parenting style. That's Levine's hierarchy. If you're scared of death, you don't worry about self-esteem.
Got it. Point 2, mother love is shaped by circumstances. The Brazil example. It's not always instant or automatic. Sometimes it's conditional on survival.
Point 3, the isolated nuclear family is a recent, lonely, and globally weird experiment. We are the outliers for locking ourselves in separate houses.
Point 4, we segregate kids by age via schools, which deprives them of the sibling solution and that crucial mixed-age learning environment.
Point 5, we replaced grandma with the expert, which led to some really cold, technical parenting practices in the 20th century that we're still recovering from.
And point 6, we favor mock participation, lessons and toys, over pitching in, which is real contributions to the family's work.
And finally, we socialize in dyads, face-to-face, rather than in groups, which completely changes how we pay attention and interact with each other.
We're going to crush this exam. I actually feel like I understand it now.
I feel prepared. I might actually pass this class. This was good.
But before we sign off, I have a provocative thought for us to mull over. A final discussion question for the class,
Okay, let's hear it.
If our current Western style, the isolated nuclear families, the age segregation, the fake work, the need for exclusive attention, if that's the historical and global outlier, what are we losing? Are we creating a society of lonely, anxious adults because we fundamentally isolated them as children?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? Perhaps there is a spiritual loss. We treat children as projects for success. We optimize them, we test them, we enrich them with lessons and tutors, but we don't treat them as integral members of a community who are responsible for one another.
We're building resumes, not villagers.
Deep.
Yeah.
That is definitely going in my essay.
Well, on that cheerful note, good luck on the exam, everyone.
Well, don't forget to review the Cotton Mather dates. That measles epidemic was 1713. That feels like a trick question waiting to happen.
Good call. And seriously, use the Cozy Earth code, PSYC10101. If you're going to stay up all night having an existential crisis about the loneliness of modern childhood, you might as well do it in incredibly soft bamboo sheets.
It definitely helps. Trust us.
See you in the next study group.
Class dismissed.